Hey everyone, it's been a long time since I recorded a video. I'm going to try recording this one more time and try to make it as quick and as concise as possible. I am not trying to be offensive towards anybody who is religious. I grew up very religious. I went to Sunday school, middle school was a Catholic middle school, high school was a Catholic high school, college was a Christian college. I focused on religion for one of the majors that I did. I have no problem with religion. All right, let's just jump into it. I think that the modern disclosure movement, which I'm happy for, I think it's great that we're seeing all these whistleblowers and UAP specialists and whatnot coming out and talking about aliens and alien craft and whatnot. But I'm happy about that. I do think that it's increasingly disturbing to see a big attachment with the modern Christian philosophy that's sort of stuck on it. And it sort of seems like there's a side in the disclosure narrative that is promoting this sort of heavy Christian interpretation of the UFO phenomena, of the scientific elements of psychic abilities and aliens and all of their existence and stuff like that. And it's a little worrisome. And the reason why I think it's worrisome is because I'm worried that we're going to have a big tug to hold on to the slave state of the population by dragging the inevitable disclosure of alien life in a religious direction. And what would happen if that happened and we all sort of just fell hook, line, and sinker into this religious direction? Well, it would sort of make people change from worshiping in churches to directly worshiping extraterrestrials, which is basically turning us into an open slave state. Now it's kind of like a covert slave state. People don't really know that they're slaves as much, but it'll be very obvious that we are a subspecies to these other alien races if we devolve. I'm going to say devolve because it is a devolution. It's you're devolving to a point where you are openly accepting the need to get down on your knees and worship other flesh and blood beings that are going to be Anunnaki. I'm going to call them Anunnaki because if you look into the history of Western religions, there's a lot of connections between the modern Western religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the philosophies that came out of the Mesopotamian region. And I'm not saying it's 100% one for one. I'm just saying there's an underlying philosophy that comes out of the various cultures that evolved over time in that part of the world as they sort of migrated and spread either through just wanting to move around or conquering to areas like the Levant. And that's great, but if you realize that the aliens in the past were the Anunnaki and they were trying to create a slave race, and you see that those guys never really left. They never left. They got into fights with other ET groups, and that resulted in them not just hanging around with the humans openly as much anymore because of a result of the warfare that went on between the advanced alien races. Clearly, that group of advanced alien races saw us as their slaves, period. And they never left, period. And I'm seeing that the attitude of making the modern disclosure movement a religious thing makes a worrying twist on the evolution of humanity, dragging us a little bit more towards a open space age slave state. And that sounds horrible to me. What do you do about that? I don't know. Maybe just do what makes you happy. What makes me really happy is viciously focusing on developing my psychic abilities. I really want to focus as much as possible on developing my own psychic abilities, most of which I never record and share on Farsight's channel or any personal channel or anything like that. But viciously focusing on the development of your psychic abilities, because if you don't do that, you're always going to be in this receptive state of saying he said, she said, or maybe not receptive, reactive state of just thinking he said, she said is the only way that you get information, and you have to use discernment and try to figure out, who's Which he said, she said is the right he said, she said. You're never driving your own car. You're never actually having a hand on the wheel. You're always just saying, oh, I trust this taxi driver. Oh, no, I trust that taxi driver. And then you argue with each other about which taxi driver is the best taxi driver. This is a stupid way of existing. Developing your own psychic abilities is basically you trying to develop the ability to grab the wheel of your own car so you can drive it where you want to go. So that's my interpretation of why psychic abilities are important and why everyone needs to sort of push towards actively pursuing that with as much vigor as you possibly can. There are plenty of people on the internet that have way more psychic abilities that are way more advanced than anything that I've shown on the internet. But yeah, it's a mad dash towards not being a slave species, and that happens with the individual. It happens with you. I am expecting to see a lot more disclosure narratives happening, a lot more undeniable disclosure events happening in the very near future. I'm also expecting to see a bunch more. I'm expecting to see more people connect the disclosure events with the reasons why you need to go back to church and pray to Jesus and get yourself some God in your life. I have no problem with people who want to be more religious. I've been there. I've enjoyed that sort of line of thinking, and I think that a more practical and a more beneficial approach is to say I need to train, because even if you look at like a Gnostic interpretation of a lot of the stuff Jesus was talking about, he's basically saying, you go train. This is monkey see, monkey do. I'm going to go around. I'm going to do a lot of cool stuff with psychic abilities. You can do it too. I'm the son of God, but you're the children of God. You go out and do that stuff. And then if you go out and do that stuff and you take it upon yourself to say, I can do it, if I can do anything, he can do better, because that was his message. You can do anything, I can do better. If you take that interpretation to heart, then you're going to pursue psychic abilities. I think that's a great thing to do. Now, if you choose to say, oh, okay, well, I think the highest form of doing any of this stuff is worshiping and sort of following the herd, well, then you deserve to be with the herd. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Do whatever makes you happy. I don't care. I don't care at all. All right, I just wanted to talk because it was the morning and I felt like, I have all these thoughts in my head. I want to talk about them. All right, have a good day.